In this episode, we're going to talk about other records to help fill the gap where the 1890 census was lost. Many of us find it frustrating to research between 1880 and 1900 because we have this giant gaping hole where there are no longer any 1890 census records due to a fire in 1921 that destroyed just about the entire 1890 census. So this leaves a 20-year gap. Well, what do we do? And this is what we're going to talk about today. I want to mention there is a handout for this episode for the information access level channel members and the Happy Dance level patrons. More information about that are in the description box below the video on the YouTube channel. Now, state census schedules are certainly one of those things that can help us. Some of the states created census in the off years. Now, not all states have state census schedules as opposed to the federal census schedules that in this case is missing. For example, in 1885, Colorado, Florida, Iowa, Kansas, Michigan was actually 1884, in Minnesota, Nebraska, New Jersey, New Mexico, Rhode Island, South Dakota, and Wisconsin all conducted state censuses. Now be sure to check for any state that might have the 1895 census as well. So just check out the state that you're researching for 1885, 1895 census schedules. Moving on to city directories. City directories are a great option to help you find that in between 1880 and 1900, as city directories were often updated just about every 2 years. So there are several collections at Family Search and at Ancestry.com to help cross over that 1880 to 1900 time frame. Now, these two collections, the 1749 to 1940 US State City Directory and Business Directories, are available at Family Search. The 1822 to 1995 US City Directories are available at Ancestry. This is an index with images. You can find links for all of this in the handout for this episode. If you haven't figured out where the handout is, check out the description box below. There's 3 ways to get the handout. We'll talk more about that at the end of the show as well. Now there's the special enumerations of Union veterans and widows, which was actually taken in 1890, and so part of that has survived. Now, some of that is for part of Kentucky through Wyoming and parts of Washington, D.C. There was some selected U.S. vessels and Navy yards as well. Now, these records can be found for free at Family Search, and I've left a link in the handout for that if you want to check that out. Let's move on to voter registrations. Voter lists are often found at the state archives, county courthouses, and local libraries. My best suggestion is to search the Family Search Wiki for where to find those in your area. How about church records? Let's talk about church records. Now, it could be that you could search the church records for birth, marriage, and death, including church cemeteries. Don't forget those. The church records may be the only thing that survives and fills in the gap for you for that 20-year gap between 1880 and 1900. How about school records? MyHeritage has a free-to-search collection of U.S. yearbooks, the indexes from 1890 to 1979. Don't forget vital records. While many birth and death certificates were not really required until, somewhere between 1899 and about 1912, depending on the state and location, but marriage records, birth indexes, and such may actually exist to help fill in that time gap. Now search the Ancestry card catalog in those areas you are researching, and you can do the same over at Family Search. You need to just kind of search it in a different way using the records search. Don't forget maps. Often we can find a lot of information in maps, and you can find those at your local library, state archives, both in person and online. If you can find them, postal maps are great, but a lot of these old maps a lot of times have our ancestors' name labeled on the houses, especially postal maps. They're hard to find, but if you can find them, they're a huge help. And a lot of times those neighbors, you can actually figure out, you could follow, some of the old census records and stuff. It's very cool. I love maps. Ancestry has U.S. indexed county land ownership maps from 1860 to 1918. So make sure you check out those. Often forgotten about are tax records. Most people had to pay taxes either for their real property, or males often had to pay a poll tax when they became an adult. Now, what an adult is varies depending on the state. So be sure to check out the tax records on the platform in which you are researching, or in the state or local archives and, libraries, because they may have some of those tax records as well. In the handout, I've given you a link to some of the resources at Family Search, as well as the US IRS tax assessment list 1862 to 1918 on Ancestry. Land and deed records, be sure to check those out at your state and local archives as well. Newspapers, let's talk about those. You want to research those by time frame. A great strategy for researching newspapers is to search by location and then by time frame. Use the Family Search Wiki, which is free, to drill into the location in which you are researching, and then look on the right-hand side and click on the newspaper link in the area and see what newspapers are available for the time frame in which you are researching. Here is a list of some of my favorite newspaper repositories. Chronicling America, which is free. Genealogy Bank is a subscription. Newspapers.com is owned by Ancestry, but is also part of their subscription. Newspaperarchives.com is a subscription. Check out the state archives, which is free. So see the handout. If you haven't seen this, go over to genealogytv.org. There's a handout over there about the state archives, and it's got every link to every state archives online and their digital collections. That one's worth the price of admission. Now, Ancestry has created this database specific for filling in the gaps for the 1890 census. So they're calling it the 1890 Census Substitute Searchable Database, which compiled all the specific research records that may help you fill that gap in this time frame. So it contains fragments of the actual 1890 US federal census, or what's left of it anyway. Additionally, they have the 1890 veteran schedules, as well as a long list of records such as city directories, tax lists, voter registration, to help you fill the gap. That might be your one-stop shop to go research a lot of what's already on Ancestry. I personally like to search each database separately as well, in case you're not finding what you need. Now, don't forget, you want to go to the card catalog in Ancestry and search specifically by era, right? The time frame in which you're working. So here's a quick tip on how to use the Ancestry card catalog. So you go to search and you drop down to card catalog, and there what you do on the left-hand column is scroll down to where you can search by location. So maybe you click into USA and maybe the state in which you're researching, or just stay at the USA level. And then you can select the 1800s, for example, at the top of the list, because if you click into 1890, you may actually filter it down too tightly. So choose the state and county in which you're researching if you choose to, and then search for the results. Now, if the results are too few when you drill into the county, what you want to do is you want to back up and take the county out so that you're at the state level, and you'll get a lot more records. Now, in the upper right corner, you can sort by record count, which gives you the best odds of finding good results. You're going to find more records if you sort by record count, which brings the record sets with the most amount of records to the top. Then strategically, by opening in a new tab each of the record sets that look interesting to you, such as census or voter lists and so on. By opening each record set in a new tab, this preserves your original list. Then close each tab as you finish your search. When I was doing this research, I found this book by William Dollarhide that was produced just a couple years ago, and it is called The Substitutes for the Lost 1890 US Federal Census. I will leave a link in the description box on how you can get that at Amazon. All right, well, there are more records in the handout. If that is of interest to you, go ahead and make sure you get a hold of the handout. There really is a lot of different records that we can use to help fill in the gaps between 1880 and 1900. So make sure you are doing your homework and you can try and fill in the gaps as best you can. And if you have any other ideas, make sure you put them in the comment sections for everybody to read. There are 3 ways you can get the handouts. Now, the first way is to join the channel membership here at the Information Access Level channel membership on the YouTube channel, and then go to the Community tab and you'll find the posts that have the handout links in there. All you have to do is follow the link and download the handouts. Okay, now the second way is over at Patreon. Now at Patreon, if you're at the Happy Dance level or higher, you can get the handouts. Those come directly to you in an email every time we announce the new video that has a handout with it. You'll also get early release with that membership. All right, and then the third way is just to go over to genealogytv.org and click on the Handouts tab, and you can find all the handouts there for individual purchase. So I hope that was helpful. The handouts really do support the channel, and for that, I thank you. And well, if that was not enough for you, there are more videos over here on the screen for your binge watching pleasure. We'll see you in the next one.